next presentation is from Sophia Silva Beringer, who will be presenting, remotely presenting a more consistent RPKI service for the global internet community. Sophia is the RPKI Program Manager at the NRO and is joining us virtually. This is Sophia's first time presenting at NANOG, and we are very pleased to have her.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia. I'm very excited to be presenting at NANOG today. Thanks for having me. I'm the new NRO RPKI Program Manager, and in the next 10 minutes or so, I will be sharing with you about this relatively new NRO program. And before I start talking about the RPKI program, I thought I would include one slide about what the NRO is. I'm sure most of you are familiar with RIN, which is the Regional Internet Registry for North America. As well as RIN, there's other regional internet registries in the other regions. And the NRO is the organization that brings these 5 RIRs together with a mission to actively contribute to an open, stable, and secure internet through different initiatives, both in the space of internet governance, but also in the space of technical coordination. And apart from introducing the NRO, I thought I would include just one slide about why RPKI is important, which I'm quite confident this audience doesn't need me to tell you about. But again, it's just one slide. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know much more about RPKI than I do. But RPKI is the resource public key infrastructure. It was developed to secure the routing system, the global routing system. And basically, it achieves that through resource certificates and ROAs, which are digital statements that are cryptographically verifiable and allow network operators to state their intention of what origin AS they will be using for the prefixes. So then on the other side, routers can use that information to make better informed decisions on what routes to accept, what routes to reject. And then in terms of this RPKI program and why we think it's important, although in my title I talk about an RPKI service in singular, the truth is that in practice, each RIR has their own RPKI implementation. So we are aware that there's currently some diversity among those implementations. There's differences, and some differences may be fine and even welcome, but then there's some other differences that may be seen as inconsistencies, and that's what we're trying to understand to start with, right? What could be what of those inconsistencies or differences could be a problem? Some things that we are already aware of, and I just included a couple of screenshots. Sorry, it's very early for me, so please bear with me. A couple of screenshots of differences that have already been identified and documented. And we're exploring inconsistencies in different aspects of the system. So it could be in terms of services or features that are offered or not by the different RIRs, but also the way, the mechanism in which those services or features are offered. And well, one of the examples is in the CRIL documentation where the interactions with a parent CA are described, and there's like a very good description of how the different RIRs may be slightly different. Another example is a manners document with requirements and security standards for operators of RPKI services, for example, the RIRs. And this table in the annex, which is a bit old, is from July 2021, and some things may have changed since then. But just as an example, there's the states of compliance for the different RIRs in terms of those requirements and security standards. So as I was saying, what we're trying to understand is whether those differences are hindering the adoption of RPKI. So a bit of context or background on how this program came about. In 2022, the NRO went through a strategic review process, and one of the outcomes was an agreement to work towards providing a robust, coordinated, and secure RPKI service. And as a consequence, this RPKI program was created. So in the first few months of the program, we started having some conversations about, okay, what is the purpose of the program? And we agreed that we want to provide a more consistent and uniformly secure, resilient, and reliable RPKI service, which will benefit the whole internet probably, but in particular, we feel we may be able to remove barriers for RPKI adoption that network operators that are interacting, issuing certificates and ROAs through more than one RIR may be currently experiencing. The program team it consists of, first of all, the Executive Council, who are basically the CEOs of the 5 RIRs and are the executive sponsor of the program. I'm the program manager, as I mentioned, and I work directly with an RPKI steering group, which RPKI experts from the different RIRs, and we will also be working with other RPKI subject matter experts from the RIRs. I included a slide with the members of the steering group. I'm sure you're familiar with Mark and Brad from ARIN, as well as them. There's other RPKI experts from the other RIRs, as I mentioned. And what is it that we want to achieve more specifically? As I mentioned, the beginning of this year, we were kind of kicking off the program, having conversations about what the purpose of the program is. But then the next step was to try to agree on some more specific outcomes that we can start working towards. And the first thing is we believe we really need to understand what is the expectation from the community on what a single global RPKI system would look like. From all those differences and inconsistencies, what are the ones that are really worth solving or making more uniform? So that's the first thing we're working towards. We will be asking for feedback from the community, input in different ways. And then another outcome we would like to achieve is a better understanding and improved transparency of the robustness of the RPKI system. And again, we will be asking for input from the community on this, on what are the aspects of robustness that are really relevant and interesting for the community to know about. Another outcome is around security. We want to work on enhancing the consistency in terms of security of the RPKI system across all the RIRs. And finally, and where a lot of my work as a program manager happens, is to keep informed and engage the whole technical community throughout the program, but also that any concerns raised can be addressed in a coordinated way. So acknowledging that each RIR has their own community, but then on any topics that may be relevant for multiple regions, for example, that we can explore that in a coordinated way among us and then address those concerns with the global technical community. As I mentioned, there's different aspects of consistency or different elements of the RPKI system that we may want to make more consistent. And some things that we have started looking at are services and features offered. So we started documenting current state of things in terms of different services or features of the RPKI implementations of the 5 RIRs, whether they are implemented or not, how they are implemented. Also in terms of a mechanism to manage ROAS, that may be an example of a specific service. Some RIRs offer an API, some the only mechanism to manage ROAS they offer is through a graphic interface. And then, as I mentioned, we have an outcome around robustness of the system that we also want to start by documenting what's the current state, agree on what are the aspects of robustness we want to look at, that the community wants us to look at. But I'm curious about what the community thinks. So if there's aspects of consistency that you think we should consider, it would be great to hear from you. And I will share an email address just in a moment. So if you would like to know more about this program, we have updated the NRO website with information on the RPKI program, and we will be using that page as a mechanism to keep the community updated. So apart from sharing in relevant events like this one, and probably writing blog posts, which we have done 2 of already, and I have included the URLs in the ARIN blog, but they have been published through the other RIRs as well. But yeah, we will be using that webpage to keep the community informed about progress on our work, or when we start doing any user research activity or any requests for input, we'll probably do it through that webpage as well. And as I mentioned, we really want to hear from the community. We don't want to do this by ourselves and just based on our own assumptions of what we think the community needs and wants. So if you have any ideas of what could be those challenges that in the RPKI space, basically for RPKI adoption, that could be solved through better coordination and collaboration among the RIRs. I would love to hear that. But also in general, if you have any ideas of initiatives that you think we should consider, please reach out through that email address. Thanks so much for your attention. Thanks so much for this time, and I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
John Brown, Team Cymru. As somebody who ran a network that recently started adopting and signing prefixes before my current day job, I have to hand it off to the RIRs and them setting up the hosted model for doing RPKI. I think that took a lot of the pain out of the process and made it much easier. I mean, when you can walk up to an Aaron help desk or a RIPE help desk and roughly 15 minutes later, your prefixes are signed or have the ability to be signed, just reduces the friction in the process altogether and the scary 4-letter piece of it all, right? RPKI, encryption and security and so forth. So really, hats off to the RIRs. No excuse for the rest of us not getting stuff signed.
Thanks for your comment, and it's great to hear that you had such a good experience.
Okay, I guess looks like that's it for questions. Thank you very much for your talk, Sophia. It was very illuminating about the NRO role in all of this.
Thanks for having me.